Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. Would everyone please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ms. Corporal, would you please call roll?
Mr. Kizak?
Here.
Ms. Hanna?
Here.
Ms. Kane?
Here.
Ms. Strauss?
Here.
Also in attendance tonight is interim Township Manager Nick Valla, Township Solicitor Mr. Esposito, Township Engineer Mr. Kessler, Chief of Police Joseph Barbarelli, Director of Building and Zoning Jim Ennis, Director of Parks and Recreation Paul Capera, Director of Finance Laura Huckelbridge, Director of Public Works Eric Gardemeyer, Chief of Fire and Emergency Services Don Harris.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Our next Board of Supervisors meeting will be Monday, July 14th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Announcements. First, we wanted to just take a minute to announce the closure of Langhorne Yardley Road and Bridgetown Pike intersection. As I think a lot of you probably know, there is ongoing construction there. PennDOT has been working on this project for some time. They will actually be closing the road. Mr. Valla, do you just want to give a brief update on the schedule for that closure?
Yes, absolutely. The road closure will begin a week from today, June 16th on Monday, and will run through August 15th. This is to finish construction of the roundabout at the Langhorne Yardley Bridgetown intersection. And the residents are encouraged to follow the posted detours.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. I will say to PennDOT's credit, they did work very hard to schedule the closure around the academic schedule so that they didn't have it closed during the school year. So they're doing it during the summer deliberately. So I know it'll be difficult and inconvenient for folks, but it's a necessary project, and I think it will really improve traffic flow once it's done. All right, so that brings us to special items, and the first item tonight is the recognition of Lieutenant John McNevich, who is retiring, and I heard that it is also Lieutenant's birthday. Is that true, Chief?
That is correct. I heard the board's going to sing happy birthday, too, after I read his bio. No, it is his birthday tonight, so. But anyway, good evening, Mr. Kizak and fellow board members. Tonight, we recognize and honor the career of a truly dedicated public servant, Lieutenant John McNevich. On the occasion of his retirement after 35 and a half years of honorable and distinguished service to the Middletown Township Police Department. John began his law enforcement career on January 5th, 1990, when he joined our department and attended the Philadelphia Police Academy. From the very beginning, John exemplified commitment, professionalism, and a passion for service. Over the course of his remarkable career, John served in many key roles, including patrolman, canine officer, detective, sergeant, and ultimately, lieutenant. He has been an important part of our department's leadership, serving as a supervisor and member of the command staff in the Patrol Division, Detective Division, and the Administrative Division. One of John's most lasting legacies is his instrumental role in officer recruitment and background investigations. For the past 15 years, he has been responsible for conducting nearly every background investigation for new officer hires in our department. His thoroughness, attention to detail, and sharp intuition have made him one of the most respected background investigators in the county, and I say that all the time, you're one of the best. Thanks to his efforts, Middletown Township has been able to hire and retain some of the finest officers in Bucks County. John's impact has been felt at every level and every rank. His dedication, experience, and leadership have helped shape our police department into what it is today, one of the most professional, well-regarded departments in southeastern Pennsylvania. On behalf of the entire Middletown Township Police Department, I want to congratulate Lieutenant McNevich and thank him for his decades of service, loyalty, and integrity. He has truly made a difference and has left behind a legacy to be proud of. We wish him the very best in this next chapter of his life, and I did get a plaque for Lieutenant John McNevich. Congratulations on your retirement after 35 years of honorable service, January 1st, 1990 to June 30th, 2025. Congratulations, John. I'm going to let you say a few words, okay? So before he takes a picture with the board, I just want to give him the opportunity to say a few words if he wants to. So,
I just wanted to say that I was born and raised in Middletown Township, and I've raised my family here. I live in the township still, and it has been a privilege to both live here and work here for my career. Thank you.
you want to take a photo? Sure. Yeah. Congrats. Good. Thank you, Mr. Kizak.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you and congratulations to Lieutenant. We wish you all the best in your retirement. All right, next on our agenda, we are privileged to recognize the Neshaminy High School Science Club Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Science Award winners. This past February, 9 Neshaminy High School Science Club members earned first place at the regionals of the Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Science state competition that was held at Penn State University. So we would like to extend our congratulations to the first place winners, Jack Kenny, Vic Chen, Carson Tran, Adriana Acevedo, and Jack Lohr. Our second place winners, Samuel Hunter, Nishka Patel, Carly Fitzwater, and our third place winner, Barbary Ashevili. Congratulations to all of you. And if you guys are all here and want to come up and take a picture with the board, we'd love to have you come on up. Congratulations. We'll take 5 minutes, allow anybody who wants to clear out to clear out. The Pride Month proclamation, Ms. Corporal.
Proclamation recognizing June as Pride Month in Middletown Township. Whereas June is recognized as Pride Month in the United States and around the world as an opportunity to celebrate sexual diversity, promote equal rights, and build awareness and the challenges faced by the LGBTQ2S+ community and the work that still needs to be done. And whereas Pride Month is the opportunity to prevent discrimination and promote acceptance and inclusion of all kind, and to support the development of harmonious and respectful relationships amongst all members of our community. And whereas the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors created a Human Relations Commission in 2020 to defend the diversity of our gender and sexual minority communities and express a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in all organizations and our community. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors, proclaim the month of June as Pride Month and shall fly the Pride flag in front of Middletown Township Municipal Center during the month of June, an expression of our support for inclusion, safety, and acceptance of all members of the LGBTQS+ community. Be it therefore proclaimed that we, the Middletown Township, encourages and supports the celebration of June as LGBTQS+ Pride Month.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth. Ms. Strauss.
Thank you. I'm honored to read this proclamation regarding Juneteenth. Whereas on June 19, 1865, months after the Civil War ended and more than 2 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation freeing enslaved people, Union troops arrived in Galveston, Texas to free 250,000 people still held in bondage. The arrival of Major General Gordon Granger and his troops signaled that the federal government would not relent until the last enslaved people in America were free. And whereas on Juneteenth, we commemorate that day and honor the tireless work of abolitionists who made it their mission to deliver the promise of America for all Americans. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas in 2019, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf signed Act 9, declaring Juneteenth National Freedom Day a statewide holiday. And whereas in 2021, President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, declaring Juneteenth a federal holiday. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors, proclaim June 19th as Juneteenth in Middletown Township, and be it further proclaimed that we, Middletown Township, encourage all residents to learn and understand the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss. And finally, we have a proclamation regarding cerebrospinal fluid leak awareness. Ms. Hanna.
Thank you. Proclamation recognizing cerebral spinal fluid CSF leak awareness week in Middletown Township. Whereas cerebral spinal fluid CSF leak, also known as intracranial hypotension, is a significant, incapacitating, and underdiagnosed but treatable cause of new onset headache, and whereas a cerebral spinal fluid CSF leak occurs when a hole, tear, or defect in the dura mater allows CSF to escape, which can result from medical procedures, spontaneous causes, or traumatic injury to the spine. And whereas diagnosis is often missed or delayed due to low awareness among healthcare providers and diagnostic imaging is often insufficiently sensitive to confirm a diagnosis or locate a spinal CSF leak, and whereas the incidence and prevalence of this disorder has been challenging to study due to undiagnosis and a lack of research funding. And whereas greater awareness and understanding is vital to ensure that timely diagnosis, treatment, and the best possible outcomes for patients suffering from spinal CSF leak. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Middletown Township Board of Supervisors designate the week of June 1st through June 7th, 2025 as Spinal CSF Leak Awareness Week in Middletown Township and recognize the importance of understanding the impact of this disorder.
Thank you, Ms. Hanna. All right, that concludes our special items, and that brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. This is public comment on non-agenda items. We did utilize a sign-in sheet. First person is Dave Cahill, 462 Cynthia Drive, Pendel. Mr. Cahill.
Hi, Dave Cahill, 462 Cynthia. Mike, for the last 9 months, you've been telling me that Middletown doesn't have anything to do with the Pendel Fire Company. But it seems, as I remember, back in the mid to later 90s, Middletown Township removed the president of the Pendel Fire Company for not being honest with the budget. I believe John Burke was the township manager at the time.
I mean,
Was John Burke the township manager?
I don't know.
It goes back a little bit. And so
Yeah.
the township would have documents going back to that date, that year, if the township removed the president. So I'm not quite sure if what you're telling me is totally honest.
I don't know. First of all, I don't know what you're referring to that happened in the 1990s or whether there is documentation. There may or may not be. you could certainly submit a right to know request for that if you'd like it. I don't think that I've ever said Middletown Township has nothing to do with Penndale Fire Department. Penndale Fire Department is not incorporated in Middletown Township. Penndale Fire Department is a separate legal entity in Middletown Township. So that's what I've said, and that continues
So
to
if
be
that's
true.
the case, then why would the township have removed their president and made sure that he was never allowed to be president again?
I cannot and will not speak to anything that the township may have done long before I was ever a part of this Board of Supervisors.
So when you saw the contract that was getting ready to be handed out for the payment, the loan payment for Tower 8 being in that 2026 contract, did you think about asking to look at the loan documents? Because the question's been asked about what the income was that was put on the loan document?
I don't know what contract you're referring to.
Tower 8?
No, I did not.
No?
No.
You think, you told me in September that you were going to look into this last September.
I don't think I did.
You did. You told me you were going to look into the loan application for Tower 8.
Okay, well, I did not look
So-
into the loan application to Tower 8.
Yeah, so I think we all know that it's in the 2026 budget. And I'm just curious if any of the supervisors are going to take a look to see what the income, whether or not a lie was told when it comes to the loan document.
There is no 2026 budget yet, so I don't know how you can say
It's a-
that that's in the 2026 budget.
2020, Nick, the 2026 budget's been made up and it's been given to the fire companies to review?
No, there is no 2026 budget.
No, I
The
understand.
township has not even developed its own 2026.
But there's a contract that's
budget.
being discussed between the township and the fire companies?
There are ongoing negotiations, yes.
And the loan payment is it's in the contract?
We're not
For
going
Tower
to
8?
talk about anything that's in a contract that's being, the negotiations are ongoing, so I'm not going
Okay,
to speak to
so
the...
what's more important is that I don't think the township and the Penndale Fire Company are separate and don't have anything to do with one another because there's a contract. And not only is there a contract between the Penndale Fire Company, there's a contract between all the fire companies in the township to provide fire protection. So
Correct, but they are separate entities. There's an
It should
agreement.
be in the best interest of the township to find out, since the township supplied the money for the tower, to find out what the income was listed on the loan document for Tower 8. If you're going to start making the payments, I think,
Well, let me ask you. Let's assume everything you're saying is true. What does that mean? What's the significance of that?
well, I think we all know that lying on a loan document's against the law.
But, okay, so
I've been
then,
asking you that question for months.
but, so what is that, what is the implication for Middletown Township if Penndale Fire Company, which is not Middletown Township, made some misrepresentation on the loan document some number of years ago that we were not a party to, that we did not sign, we're not part of that agreement? I'm asking you why you feel that's important for our board.
You supplied the money. Township supplied the money for the tower back in 2020. I think it was purchased in October. I think they took delivery in October of 2021 of the tower.
So what
The
do you-
township supplied the money, right? And for some reason, Penndale Fire Company decided they need a loan. They needed a loan for the tower. And it's a pretty big loan.
So what do you believe was misrepresented on that loan?
I'm curious what was listed as income on the loan documents.
Okay?
And I think the township should be quite interested.
Again, I mean, I'm genuinely interested. Why is that a concern to you? What do you think was done and that was improper?
I asked you I asked you a while back, and I've asked you a couple times, if lying on a loan document's against the law, and
What
you
did-
won't
what
you won't
did they
answer the
lie about?
question.
I don't-
I'm asking what was listed as income.
Do you have information that indicates that they lied on their loan documents?
No, I'm asking what they put down as income because they don't have any. There's no income. They have no income. All the money they get from the township is budget money.
So this
the money
whole
they
thing
get
that's
from
been
the
going
borough.
on for months, where you come here and make accusations
Keep
that they
asking,
lied.
yeah, but you keep telling me that you're separate and you don't have anything to do with one another.
But you actually don't have any
And now the
information that they
township,
actually
but
lied
now
on their
the
loan
township,
document?
now you're acting like a lawyer.
No, I'm not. I'm asking
you're
you a
acting
question
like
that
a
you're
lawyer.
not answering.
So I want to know if the township has documentation on the Penndale Fire Company president being removed.
Okay, so
Because he lied.
I understand you've asked that question, and you
Okay.
can submit a right to know request for documentation back in the 1990s as to the removal.
I have to submit a right to know request.
Well, I don't know the answer, and
Okay.
I don't know where that document is, so that would be the proper vehicle to
But
get that
aren't
document.
the supervisors interested in why that happened? And that wouldn't make you separate anymore if that's the case. You're tied together.
I don't know if that's true, or I have no idea what the relationship was in 1990.
Okay. So one of the other fire companies lawyered up. They're not happy with what they're hearing. So things aren't going too well. So I don't know how it's going to work with this Middletown Township paid fire department. It's being operated out of the Pendle Fire Company right now. I think it's been operating out of there for the last 5 or 6 years. So I think there needs to be some sort of investigation on Tower 8. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, next is Gail Thibodeau, 312 Paxton Lane, Langhorne. Ms. Thibodeau.
Good evening, Board. A few months ago, I was at your meeting, and I asked about the possibility of looking into having digital signs on Woodburn Road, alerting drivers about a freight train blocking the road. Well, since that meeting, we've probably all wasted about several hours sitting there waiting for the train to pass. And now things are going to get even, more hairy with the Langhorne Yardley Road closed. So I would like the board to consider looking into that. I don't know, I guess we check with PennDOT or what have you, but I think a lot of the citizens in our community would appreciate knowing that they have to go a different way. Like place one by Oxford Valley Mall and then maybe by Steyer's. Because the other day, it took me 40 minutes to get home from Levittown because there was a train, then I turned around and Maple Avenue was only one lane and it was all backed up. I had to go down Route 1 and I'm glad I'm familiar with all the back roads and everything, but I seriously would like the board to consider looking into that.
I think I could say the board wholeheartedly agrees, and there's actually been a lot going on. Mr. Valla, do you just want to
Yeah, I'd be
provide
happy
a
to speak
brief
to that.
update?
So for anybody in the community who may not be aware, PennDOT did actually secure funding to study, I believe it was 4 rail crossings in the entire Commonwealth, 2 of which are here in Middletown Township, one of which is the one that you're expressing concern about. They're actively working with their engineers to evaluate what is actually happening there. That way they are working on recommendations of how can PennDOT work with the township, the rail, and other parties to improve that situation. Not just try to warn people of, hey, this is a thing, but really trying to work towards how can we actually prevent this from even happening. And so, yes, there has been a lot of discussion over time about putting in a warning system. We are happy to evaluate that at the staff level as the board considers the 2026 budget. But that has been a recommendation from the staff is there is a large state-funded study effort going on right now that it might be a little bit premature to invest for something that may hopefully not be even necessary long term.
Well, happy to hear something's in the works. Thank you.
Mr. Valla, would you be able to speak to, knowing that Langhorne Yardley will be closing, it's probably going to be even more of an inconvenience as the train is blocking the road. Are we talking with CSX about the fact that this will be a main detour? I'm thinking emergency services, all of those things that are occurring.
Sure. So the official signed detour is actually on the northern side of the intersection. PennDOT is required to post detours on PennDOT Road, so it actually takes folks up Woodburn Road towards the Newtown bypass and back down 413. We recognize there might be some folks who are more familiar that may take their own way. But yes, we can certainly message with CSX that that is a local issue, and we'll even put that on PennDOT's radar too.
The problem is CSX doesn't seem to care what we message to them, but we always can continue to make the effort. Okay, next on for public comment, I have Joe. I'm sorry, Joe, I can't read your writing for your last name. 346 Wyoming Avenue, Langhorne.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay undercover. My name is Joseph Fitch, 346 Wyoming Avenue. 2 questions. On farther down on the agenda, we're going to talk about stormwater, so we'll have time to talk about that then, right? Second comment is, I've asked a ton of times, you have a trash pit, which is called Delaware Park. Cars constantly are driving down up over the berm into the park. When they built the berm and redesigned the park, They made the roadway go up and go over a bridge, and it just dead ends into nowhere. Can we please put up a do not enter sign, road ends, painted on the street, something to stop cars from going up and over the bridge and going into the park, and us eventually having to call the cops because they're down there parking where they don't belong. I think the chief knows about it. I know Eric knows about it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal to put a sign up. You know, I mean, I'm tired of calling the police and having the officers come out. I mean, I'm sure they'd rather come out for something small like that than some of the major crimes that they have to go on. So I'd just like to get something like that taken care of.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, can you just comment on what the process would be to try to look into something like that? What would be the best strategy?
Sure, we can work with our public works and police departments to take care of that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fitch. All right, next, Karen Dalrymple, Valley View Road, Langhorne.
Good evening, Board. Karen and I just wanted to talk about the 8th thing on your agenda, so I guess we'd have a chance to talk about that, right? So we'll touch base. Wait.
Sure,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah, this is public comment on non-agenda items. Okay, so Linda Lokes, that's same? Yes, okay. All right, so next, Chris Nowakowski, 29 Alberts Way, Langhorne.
Good evening, good evening. First off, just wanted to say thank you for the proclamation for the CSF leak awareness. As a member of the CSF leak adjacent community, I appreciate it, and so do a lot of people who are suffering quietly. Also, special shout out to Mr. Vala and also to Nicole Temmer from the Human Rights Commission for doing the legwork on the back end to make that possible. So I thank you very much. Another topic for tonight is trees. I live up in the northern end of the township near the Stone Meadow Farm, and they're doing the reconstruction, they're doing landscaping, finishing touches on the grounds now. And you can't help but realize that we plant, whenever anybody comes in and does a development, we plant like 85 or 90% deciduous trees, leafy trees, and a tiny fraction of evergreen trees. And I'm just wondering if we have a township ordinance or something in the code that ensures that that's the case, or if that just is how the cookies or how things happen to go from a developer's point of view. Because obviously deciduous trees, they lose their leaves in the winter, they lack the sort of visual barrier, they lack the sound absorption capabilities, they drop their leaves, so then we have to parade out the lawnmowers and the leaf blowers and annoy everybody. So is there a reason why there's one versus the other?
I think actually there was some thought put into the trees in this particular project. Mr. Kessler, can you comment on that?
I'll note that when the developer has their landscaping plan, there's not a specific breakdown percentage of what they required as far as evergreen or deciduous. It's usually developers' preference of where they want to landscape. The tree types are, there's a list of native species for the township that they need to comply with. But for your question of is there a certain percentage that they need evergreen as compared to deciduous, the ordinance doesn't quite go to that detail. It's more per the development's landscaping plan.
Thank you. I generally would prefer sort of a streamlined government, but in this case, I'm wondering if it might be worthwhile to discuss, at least considering something, because we had the Environmental Advisory Commission, some of the people I've been speaking to, and they planted some trees near my development this past spring, which is appreciated. But the reason they did so, and I requested they do so, is because some evergreen trees had died, and they trimmed them up from the ground to make mowing easier. So now it's audibly louder in the development because the trees are not blocking the sound from the highway anymore. And visually, it's not as appealing to see cars driving across the distance where there used to be trees blocking their path. So if all those trees were deciduous trees, the problem would exist everywhere. And I think we can mitigate it and sort of improve the beauty and some of the benefits around the township if we have more evergreens and less deciduous trees. So maybe we could discuss it at least.
No, it's a great comment. And when we do review land development plans, we look at areas that are more intended to be buffer for visibility and things like that, and the developer usually is inclined to do more of the evergreen. But that's a great point. We can bring that up and discuss, have the EAC as a topic they can look a little more into and see any kind of needed updates.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I appreciate it, because if anybody's driving on 413 in front of the Stone Meadows Farm project, you can see the trees that are planted. Even along the front of the road, there might be, I don't know, 3 or 4 evergreen trees, and there's probably 25 deciduous trees. Now, that's a perfect visual barrier spot where you would think we would plant some evergreen trees. You know, insulate the houses, you know, block some of the view from the highway, block some of the noise, but it's not done. And I have a feeling the developers are probably taking the easy way out. Maybe the deciduous trees are cheaper. Maybe it's easier to plant, whatever. I don't know what's in their head, but I think it's a discussion we should have on our end. So, thank you.
Mr. Kessler, I know for Stone Meadow specifically, it was a very detailed landscaping plan that the Save the Stone Meadow Farm and the developer came to. Have we confirmed that those plantings align with what was planned out?
We do, yeah. Part of the site inspection work is inspecting the tree types and the number of trees, where they're planted, so it matches with the approved plan. And to your point, I know, you know, evergreens are sometimes more the visual barrier. With that frontage, it was very specified for different types of trees to have more of you know, different colors at certain times of the year, things like that come into play as well. Not to say that they shouldn't plant any evergreens, obviously, but that all comes into play when they identify which types and how many they're planting throughout the site.
They also did it at St. Mary's when they built the rehab center, which is across the street from my home. And again, like almost all deciduous trees, and they're in a variety of locations there. You know, they line the sort of main road going in. They're all on some of the edges of the property. Like, you know, when I walk up there, I think, well, why can't half of these be evergreen trees? I don't know. They just aren't.
I assume, Mr. Kessler, that there's somewhere in the world a set of best practices on the concept that the gentleman's raising regarding deciduous versus evergreens. Maybe we can dust those off in the EAC, kind of do some research and bolster these opinions and preferences with some facts and, you know, recommendations from experts.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list is Richard Doyle, 67 Queensbridge, Levittown. Yes.
Hello, Board. I'm going to talk about the stormwater fee. Should I do that now or wait for the stormwater fee on the agenda? Wait for it?
Wait for the agenda item, right? We have a stormwater agenda.
Okay,
item.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, is there any other public comment on non-agenda items?
Yeah, Mike, what was Middletown Township doing in 1776? Were we collaborating with the British? Kidding. All right, Eric Bruno, 79 Sweetgum. So everyone was watching over the weekend what was going on in LA with the LAPD and then the National Guard and now Marines over there. But I was actually looking up at New York. And what I was seeing, I was not happy about. So I looked it up, and it looks like ICE operations that are going on in our country, they're hiring amateurs. And what happened up in New York, if you're not aware, is that basically these amateurs were doing an operation, and then they got into a little spat with the local community, and the NYPD had to come in, and then they had to end up retreating into a federal building, and it was just an absolute cluster. So when the NYPD stepped in to control the situations, it actually put them into danger because of the amateur hour that these untrained professionals that have been hired are doing. So the fact of the matter is that ICE doesn't really care about the safety of officers that they're working with. So what I'm coming up in front of you is to ask that we bar our Middletown police officers from working with any ICE operations within Middletown, and I would love to bar them working with them outside the clock as well. This is a officer safety issue. It's not immigration. I'm not coming up here to be a bleeding heart for immigration or anything like that, but the danger that I saw on the streets of New York over the weekend, of course, you know, that everyone was overshadowed by what's going on in LA, really concerned me. And honestly, I like Chief Joe, I like our officers and whatnot, and I just am concerned that if we continue on, if we do end up working with ICE, that within Middletown Township, or while our officers work with ICE outside the clock, outside of Middletown Township, it could open us up to lawsuits or criticisms or whatnot. Sheriff Herron has already taken tons of criticism since he said he was going to work with ICE left and right. And honestly, I just don't want to put Middletown Township into that position that we just can avoid by saying we're not going to end up working with you. I don't know what our current position is right now, and I honestly, it's not something that our community probably has a target on our back about, considering the makeup of our population being what it is. But I just want to put a clear kibosh on it up front, and that so we don't have to worry about it at all. My good friend was up in New York in that neighborhood while it was going on, and you just saw these idiots, I guess, cosplaying as enforcement officers, and then you could just see the police have to step in and put them into the moral danger as well, and because they were assisting the ICE operations as well, and it just was not a good situation. So that's what I'm asking the board, if we can have a conversation around that and ultimately just bar our Middletown Police Department from working with ICE during their operations.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. I appreciate it. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? All right, so we'll move into consent agenda items. Those are as follows. Consideration of authorizing payment of June 9th, 2025 bills list in the amount of $2,732,323.86. B, consideration of approving the May 12th, 2025 minutes of the public meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors and the special meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors on June 3rd, 2025. C, consideration of approving financial security release number 1 final for site items fully completed for the 750 Olive Street Land Development S/LD number 22-02 in the amount of $19,551.95. And consideration of approving resolution number 25-13R, supporting request for state funding to sustain Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, SEPTA, services. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items as read.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss. It's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, consideration of preliminary and final land development plan approval for Woods Meadowbrook Services, Meadowbrook Apartments, Woods Services, S/LD number 25-03. Mr. McGinnis.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mike McGinnis. I am here on behalf of Woods Services. I have with me tonight Eric Clace from Gilmore & Associates, along with Dawn Diamond on behalf of Woods. We are here tonight to discuss the development of an attainable apartment building referenced at prior meeting discussions related to the overlay district which passed. To provide a bit of background regarding this project specifically, the overall property is about 3.78 acres. It is located within the CDT overlay district, and what was submitted depicts 2 phases, one of which is phase 1 being 42 units, and the second of which is 28 units. But to be clear, the approval which we are here tonight hopefully to seek from the supervisors relates only to phase 1, which again is the 42 unit attainable apartment building. This building will be 4 floors once it's constructed. We do have an exterior site rendering which we have provided. Phase 1 will be 29 1-bedroom units, 8 2-bedroom units, and 5 3-bedroom units. This was discussed as part of the overlay district, but the access to this site, as Mr. Clace will get into momentarily, is strictly to the interior of the Woods campus. We have, and on the screen now is a rendering of the exterior of the structure which we're proposing. We have 65 parking spaces just related to phase 1 of the development. And as was discussed at length in prior meetings, and just to underscore the point, this relates to attainable housing. We are working with a third-party management company in association with PHFA, and that third-party management company is involved with not only the management of the building when it's constructed, but also background checks for any potential applicant who seeks to live in this apartment once it is built. In addition to the attainable housing, and as was also discussed at prior iterations of the overlay, we have 9 units with respect to phase 1, which are specifically allocated for individuals with intellectual or traumatic brain injuries. We did revise the plan and resubmit for Mr. Kessler's review prior to appearing at the Planning Commission and the Supervisors. So what is left in the Remington-Vernick review letter are very few comments. And while Woods would like to eventually move forward with phase 2 of the development, we are just constructing, as I noted, phase 1 initially. However, I did want to note that the stormwater improvements, which are depicted on the plan which we submitted, are going to be constructed initially as part of the phase 1 development, even though they are designed both for phase 1 and phase 2. And the reason I am highlighting that is in the event, the unfortunate event that phase 2, the additional 28 units never comes to fruition, the stormwater will therefore be overdeveloped because, again, it is envisioning both the phase 1 and the phase 2 portion of development. We only have 2 waivers with this. We really worked hard to try to make sure we were minimizing the waiver requests. But before I get into the 2 waiver requests that we're seeking, and before I turn it over to Mr. Clace to do a brief overview of the site plan, I do want to volunteer a few conditions and additional comments that were discussed at length at the Planning Commission meeting that we attended last week. So as part of the recommended approval, which we obtained, we volunteered the following conditions. And I would like to state for the record that we are adhering to those and are happy for those to be as part of the approval resolution this evening. Number 1, there will be a traffic impact study which is completed not just for phase 1 of this development, but also for phase 2. That is going to be supplied to the township traffic engineer that is currently underway from Gilmore Associates, and we are agreeing to that be supplied, approved, reviewed to the township satisfaction before we record our development plan. Number 2, there was discussion at the Planning Commission meeting regarding the installation of a berm between the corner of the development, and you can see the parking on the plan north and Route 1. And again, Eric will get into this in a second, but we are agreeing to install a berm to the township's satisfaction. In addition to that, a fence if it's necessary. And the point of that would be to obstruct and block any headlights from any of the vehicles that would be parked in those parking spaces relative to Route 1. So we're agreeable to that as a condition of approval. And then additionally, to the berm, the landscape plan is being amended, and we have on one of the aerial renderings depiction of a number of trees which basically traverse the entire property boundary between this site and Route 1. We are agreeable to installing those trees as part of the phase 1 development, again, regardless of whether phase 2 comes to fruition, and you can see it there. So that tree line, in addition to the berming, and if it's necessary, any fencing, will be installed at the beginning of construction of this development. We are also, as you can probably surmise based on the comments, willing to condition this, specifically the construction of only phase 1. There will be nothing recorded of this plan set as it relates to phase 2. Again, that's separate and apart from the fact that we will be providing the traffic impact study for both phases, but nothing will be recorded of the property relative to phase 2. And what that means is if and when phase 2 hopefully comes to fruition, we will then be submitting the development application for phase 2. We'll be coming back before the Planning Commission and then back before the Supervisors for phase 2 of this development. And then finally, even though I don't think I would phrase this as a condition, I think it's worth noting based on what I think was maybe a misconception from some interested members as it related to the overlay. There is only one apartment which is envisioned, which in the CDT overlay district. I know that was a question that some members of the community had. So if and when this is constructed, phase 1 and or phase 2 on top of that, there are no other apartments that are allowed to be constructed within the overlay district on Woods campus. So any concerns or questions regarding proliferation or if this is going to be something that gives rise to additional apartments like this being built on Woods campus, that is explicitly disallowed in the ordinance, and therefore we're happy to note that that is, whether we want to couch it as a condition or just a clarifying comment, I thought that was worth mentioning. So again, this just relates to the 42 units of phase 1. If Phase 2 gets built, we'd have to come back before you. In addition to that, we are agreeable to install the landscaping in the form of trees, berming, fencing, if necessary, and do the traffic impact study to the township's satisfaction. So again, we appreciate the interest and the support from the township and the supervisors during this process. It's been very genuinely felt on the Woods team, and we're happy that we're approaching a finish line for the development of a needed project for our community. With that, I will turn it over to Eric Clace from Gilmore to do a brief overview on the site plan. We can address the 2 waivers that we're seeking, and then happy to answer any questions that the supervisors have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. Mr. Clace?
Good evening. Eric Clace from Gilmore and Associates. Reiterate some of the facts that Mike McGinnis has already stated. This is a 42-unit affordable apartment building. To the north, you have Route 1. To the west, you have 413. To the south, you have Woods Drive. And to the east, it's internal to the Woods site, which we're going to now be calling it Meadowbrook Drive. Aside from that, the stormwater management will be handled with an underground basin in the general vicinity of the circular area on the plan, which is to the south. We will capture all the impervious in that underground basin, slow it down, cool it off, treat it, and then release it into existing stormwater piping within the site, which eventually drains into a tributary within the township. At the Planning Commission meeting, it was a topic of conversation that went on for quite some time. What we've agreed to is on the north side of the site, which again is Route 1, we are going to install a berm between the parking and the property line. It'll be 2 foot high, that's the most we could get in, but on top of that berm will be a 6-foot fence, privacy fence. You will not be able to see through the fence, so you have a 2-foot berm, a 6-foot fence, and then on the outside of that fence, on the Route 1 side, you will have evergreens. So I think people in the audience will be happy to hear that there are evergreens being installed, and only evergreens. There will be no deciduous trees there. Other than that, again, it's a 42-unit apartment building. The square footage of the footprint is about 12,680 square feet. They are seeking LEED for the building, and there will be 4 outdoor EV charging stations for vehicles. That's pretty much, oh, and there will be, as part of Phase 1, 65 parking spaces. So that's pretty much all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any board members have questions for Mr. McGinnis or Mr. Clace?
I could go through the waivers as well. They're de minimis waivers. One is to approve preliminary and final at the same time. The other is around a building, you're required to have 15 feet. On the north side of the building, we only have 10, but we do have access to the other 3 sides. Again, 10 feet, 15 feet. The fire department has access to all 4 sides of the building.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I had a question around sidewalks. I don't see sidewalks around the entire property. Is there a reason for that?
Well, we show access on 3 sides of the building as part of Phase 1. As part of Phase 2, there is part of Phase 1, we do go out to Woods Drive along the access drive, which again we'll call Meadowbrook Drive. From there, we will be interacting with PennDOT as to what PennDOT will be providing with their future connection in that general location.
Yeah, and where is that on the?
Well, 413 is where the improvements from PennDOT will be south to the site. It does not impact our parcel.
Okay.
So those improvements have not been solidified with PennDOT. So we're waiting to find out what they're going to propose, and then we would want to tie into it.
Okay, all right, so there'll be sidewalks along Pine? Is that?
That would be the goal, hopefully.
Okay, all right. And that's not as part of the property, right? So I see the open space there. Would that impinge upon the open space eventually?
Well,
if
no,
we put sidewalks in there?
No, it would be within the right-of-way of 413.
The right-of-way, okay.
Right.
And then my only other question around, I know the last time you were here, I asked about like the vetting of the candidates, the people that are going to be here, like what are the criteria? There's probably going to be a wait list. Do we have any more answers as to what type of criteria that they're going to use?
It's only by the,
So as I mentioned, Woods is not managing the property. They are working with PHFA, and then PHFA vets and approves a third-party management company who then goes through the process to make sure that anybody who is seeking approval to live here meets certain criteria. And my understanding is that that criteria is not static. It's not, I can't stand here and say that it's going to be, $37,102, for example, if you have a one-bedroom. There are ranges that are promulgated, but then based on a number of criteria, that is not a fixed. So that third-party management company would receive applications. I'm sure there's going to be interest in the community, hopefully from a number of Middletown Township residents. They are going to make sure that it's managed appropriately and it's done in a way. I think there was a concern, I don't remember if it was at the Planning Commission meeting initially when we came through, that Woods was not going to necessarily have direct oversight in a way that could impact the development, so that it was just really a Woods development in the guise of a PHFA project. And that's not the case. Part of the reason why there's a third-party management company is to make sure that the PHFA attainable housing guidelines are adhered to, with the exception of the 9 units, which again are earmarked specifically for the Woods individuals. With respect to specific criteria, I don't know the exact criteria for entrance, but I do know that individuals are vetted thoroughly to make sure they're appropriate to be residing here, both based on their background and things like income. And as I said when we were, I think, here last time, Woods has as strong a vested interest as anybody, because they have 9 of their clients who are going to be residing in this building, to make sure that the individuals who are going to be living here are safe and vetted. But of course, just like any other development, you have to follow the law in terms of non-discrimination based upon race, class, gender, creed, et cetera. So I don't know if that answers it exactly, but.
Yeah, it does.
All right, thank you.
And then I noticed that there's no studios. What's the reasoning behind not having studio apartments here? Because
I'm not sure the answer to that, but I know this was the mix they came up with. I think they thought that this was the layout that was most appropriate, probably based upon the design and the demand, but I don't know why there's not a studio.
I just had a question about parking. So remind me again, how many units are in this?
There's 42 in Phase 1.
22?
42.
42, that's what I thought. Okay, 42. And there's 68 spots, but some of them are 2 and 3 bedroom?
There's 65 parking spaces, 42 units.
Is there an overflow parking area? Or anywhere
Well,
else?
the parking is the parking. The breakdown of units, again, is 29 one-bedrooms, 8 two-bedrooms, and only 5 three-bedrooms.
Okay.
So the majority is one-bedrooms.
Just to add to that, it was discussed at the Planning Commission meeting. I think the calculation was that for Phase 2, we would be adding 40 additional spaces. So if this whole thing comes to fruition, we would end up with 105 spaces, and there would be 104 bedrooms. So while there's not 104 units, there'd be 104 bedrooms, which is compliant with the parking ordinance. And then there's myriad studies for attainable housing development that, on top of the general requirements for apartments, show that there's less stringent parking demand typically for those developments. So we do meet the ordinance requirement, and that would be the layout if this all gets built. Thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question. A lot of people are asking if it's Section 8 housing. Can you speak to that?
It is not.
Can you define the difference between this type of affordable housing and Section 8 housing?
It's different ways the government handle affordable housing. It's not Section 8.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I can accept a motion.
I make a motion to grant land development plan approval for Woods Meadowbrook Apartment Building at Wood Services, SLD number 25-03, with the following conditions. 1, applicant shall comply in full with all requirements of Middletown Township subdivision and land development ordinance and the Middletown Township zoning ordinance, unless relief was granted by the body having jurisdiction. 2, any remaining review comments shall be addressed in full. 3, the recommendation is specifically for Phase 1. 4, the applicant will remove all details and references in the plans related to Phase 2 prior to the recording of the plans. 5, applicant shall construct a berm and a fence or other screening necessary to block headlights and view of cars from Route 1 to the satisfaction of the township engineer. 6, trees will be planted along the property boundary as shown in the rendering. 7, a traffic impact study incorporating Phase 1 and Phase 2 will be submitted and reviewed to the satisfaction of the township traffic engineer prior to recording of the plans.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
I'll second. We're going to do public comment after this.
We are.
Second.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Josh. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions at this time? Or any questions or comments from the public? Yep, come on up, state your name and address, please.
Lance Eggers, 98 Queen Lily. I want to go back to the comment about Wood Services is developing their land that they're waiting on PennDOT. And I'm assuming if PennDOT is doing any kind of upgrades, that is coming from taxpayer money. So what kind of upgrades would PennDOT need to do if Woods is developing their land? Wouldn't they just connect into a road that already exists?
Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Claes?
Yeah, what I stated was when we were discussing sidewalks, accessing 413, until we have a design from PennDOT, we don't have anything we could tie into. So we need to await their design, and at that point, we would tie sidewalks from our property into the 413 upgrades PennDOT's proposing. They don't have final plans yet, so we can't propose anything at this point.
So when we're talking about upgrades, PennDOT would have to use taxpayer money to upgrade a roadway you're connecting to, which would come out of the tax-based money that could go to fix roads that we have currently that are dilapidated. Am I wrong there?
No, you're wrong. I'll take it.
So is PennDOT coming out, no taxpayer money is being spent?
Again,
For you guys to develop?
No. PennDOT is not spending any money on our development whatsoever. They are doing upgrades to all the access points along Route 1. When they're done, they will have upgrades that our client, Wood Services, would tie into. PennDOT is not giving any money to Woods for our project.
That is not my question. Would PennDOT need to do these upgrades if Woods wasn't developing their property?
No.
It's my understanding they're doing the upgrades separately, and they're just waiting until they're finished to tie it in together.
And
PennDOT's work is
that's the
happening
clarification that I'm trying to make here.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I think you guys heard a lot of public comment against these projects, and I want to make sure taxpayer money is going to the appropriate places and not to support Woods.
If I
Thank
could
you.
clarify, I think what you're referring to is the RC3 improvements that PennDOT is planning to Route 1, correct, Mr. Claes?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes. So PennDOT has not created a final design for that phase of the project, and they are saying, we know that there is one coming, but because there is not one today as you're getting development approvals, we can't tell you what the connections will be, but once that is done, we will provide that to Woods to eventually connect to. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I can take that as...
So if there's, I would just have a quick clarification. So around the sidewalks that PennDOT's potentially putting in, if they end up not putting it in, is it a criteria where you would need to put those sidewalks in or do in fee in lieu of?
Well, they're not required, the sidewalks. So what the goal would be is PennDOT, as part of their improvements, again, what I'd like to state, PennDOT's doing these improvements no matter what. If this project goes away, PennDOT's doing all the improvements. We would like to tie into their improvements with our sidewalks so the workers could walk and get to the SEPTA bus stops. We can't propose anything at this point until we know what PennDOT's doing exactly.
And can you just help me understand why sidewalks aren't required here around? Because usually when we get developments, the sidewalks are required around the entire.
Well, we are showing sidewalks through our property along the road frontage on Meadowbrook Drive. We do have a dead end out to Woods Drive at this point, but at that point, there's no other reason to have sidewalks.
Other public comment? Yes, sir.
Joe Fitch, 346 Wyoming Avenue. So I'm a little confused from looking at the picture of where the apartments are going to be. So if we go down here, go across 213, you get onto the, I call it the superhighway, Route 1, heading towards the Chamonix Mall, they're going to be on the left-hand side?
Mr. Claes, do you want to just...
If you know where the intersection of 413 and Route 1 are, It's to the southeast corner. So if you're on 413 and you go under. Okay.
If we go out of the parking lot here and make a left,
All right,
go right
yeah.
to the traffic light,
Go
make a
ahead.
left like we're going to go to Giant, right, whatever, cross over 213, and you get on to Route 1, Superhighway, heading towards Neshaminy Mall.
So if you're on Route 1 going south, which
You're
side of the road are the
It's going to be on the
apartments?
left side.
Well, you're already well past this development at that point. So if you're coming out of this parking lot, you make a left, you make another left, then make a right on Maple. You would take Maple down to 413, make a left, and then this project would be along 413 that way. I apologize for all the left and rights, but they're nowhere near each other, what we just discussed.
If you're going
still
down,
confused.
Mr.
This is
Fish,
on 413.
if you're going down Route 1 south from here, it would be on your left side.
Okay, perfect. So there was a comment made about the water retention and the underground basins and stuff like that, that with just Phase 1, if Phase 2 never gets done, it's doubled the amount, and it was mentioned that the water's going to be held. And when does the water get released, and into what body of water stream does the water then get released?
Okay, the water that we capture and release gets to Mill Creek eventually. It gets to the same location within Woods campus as it does today. What we do, though, is we capture it, slow it up. Like I said, it cools it off, it cleans it, it releases it at a much slower rate over a couple of days, and then it goes into storm piping that exists today, goes through the Woods campus, goes into a tributary, then eventually into Mill Creek, which it does today.
Okay, so basically you're saying that you're going to be dumping, eventually, you're dumping more water into a flood zone. At the bottom of Mill Creek at Delaware Park, it's a flood zone. So you're putting more water into a flood zone that the township and the state does not maintain. The streams are not maintained, they're not cleaned out. The water retention basin down there has not been touched since 1999. And Eric's favorite friend, the beaver, is back down there in the stream building his house again. So, I mean, you're talking about, I don't know, what, you say 3.5, 4 acres of, I guess, impervious surface that's going to come back down the road. And the engineers have been out there. I've walked them and showed them everything, and we didn't even put a Band-Aid on the cut. We just dabbed a little piece of gauze on there. So what can we do about this?
I mean, we know Delaware Park's an issue. I know you've raised it before.
I know, and thank you for giving the money to SEPTA, because maybe that'll keep me busy and employed longer, and then I won't be having to come here to talk to you guys about this stuff.
I think it's a good transition into our next discussion, which is
Well, and that's why I wasn't sure when to bring it up, so I'm
No, that's
bringing up
fair.
specifically
It's
things
relevant.
about this.
No, it's relevant. You're talking at the right time. I think what we have realized as a board is that there are a lot of areas in the township that are in serious need of stormwater improvement, which is why we sort of are taking the step that we've taken and going down the path we're going down. What we'll talk about in a moment is we need to develop a strategy as a board to be thoughtful and practical about how we prioritize different areas of need and how we address them.
And I completely understand that. However, and this is way prior to you guys, maybe some of you weren't even born there then, but this is going back, I have letters from the late 60s, early 70s about stormwater problem in this neighborhood.
It's overdue. I'm not disputing with you.
I mean, I'm trying to help you guys because God forbid something happens. I mean, it's all documented. We're just going to sue the township and the state again. You guys kind of got by just barely back then, but the state lost $1 million because they don't maintain underneath the 95 and their property. And here we got, again, as part of the Stormwater Management Board, I saw the paperwork. The paperwork says that retention basin is supposed to be inspected every 2 years and dredged. 99, nobody's done anything since. So we're beating a dead horse with that. pros and cons of the deciduous trees. I just peeked up the cons real quick. Fir trees, they hold the snow, wet snow, we're going to break the branches. Cons on the deciduous trees is they suck up the water a lot faster. So maybe you want to rethink your deciduous to pine trees.
All right, I'm going to take both of those. One, the word more, it's less. It's less volume, less rate. That's the requirement in the township ordinances. So the water running off the site post-development will be less, rate and volume. In this case, the trees we're using is for visual barrier. It has nothing to do with anything else. So that was why they were picked.
All right, other public comment on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Linda Lokes, Valley View. So I'm still confused exactly where this is. Is this behind Oliver Heckman, or is it across the superhighway where the camp used to be for Wood School?
So if you go down 413, before you get to the bend, you got the little road on the left-hand side.
Yes, so that's on
You're going to turn down there, and it's going to be on the other side of the superhighway.
the other side of the
Yes,
superhighway.
ma'am.
Okay, so my problem is the traffic. The traffic is horrific. And today, for an example, coming up Maple Avenue, they haven't even done Langhorne Yardley yet. The traffic was stopped at the post office coming up, and that was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We can't handle that traffic anymore. And yes, it's 90 cars or whatever that's going to be in that parking lot, but we just can't handle the traffic. What kind of options do you have? What kind of solutions do you have for that? Plus, the animals, the deer. I have deer in my backyard all the time now. They have no place to go. I mean, we're taking all of this green property that we used to have. And for the bees, for everything. I mean, it's just environmentally, it's bad for us. I don't mind the affordable housing. I think that's great. But I want to know how we deal with all of the other problems, the traffic problems, the environmental problems. What are we doing as a township to address those? And secondly, where is the second phase? Is that on the same property?
So I know you talked about this a bit, but Mr. McGinnis, can you just address traffic impact and also we know Phase 2 is not on this plan, but can you just address the plan for Phase 2?
Thank you, Mr. Cusack. And it's now on the screen, so you can see that Phase 2 is attached if it is developed as part of the same parcel. It's not going to be anywhere else on campus. And in terms of the traffic impact study, so technically speaking, Middletown's ordinance and envisioning impact requires a traffic impact study when you are building more than 50 dwelling units. We have 42 as part of Phase 1, but first, because there was so much interest in this project with the overlay or any projects on the Woods campus, and second, because we're hoping to eventually do Phase 2, which would, appended together, get us to the 70 units, we wanted to be able to supply that traffic impact study to the township for the township's review. And one of the things that we've committed to is we're very confident that the traffic impact study is going to show that this development is going to have a minimal impact. We're working with the township to study the appropriate corridors, and if it's not the case, then we can't record the plan. So we've put the power in the township's hands to review that. We believe that that's going to affirm what our suspicion is, in part because we've already begun that analysis, but also because the township's ordinance envisions requiring the traffic impact study over a certain threshold, and this first phase of the development especially is below that threshold. So we do think, and we're very confident, that this will have a minimal traffic impact, and the township hopefully will be able to confirm that in a few weeks.
One of the things that I wanted to speak to is the thought around the open space and greenery. Can you speak to why you kept it at a minimum? Again, we know that it's zoned for this usage due to the overlay, but one of my big concerns with the overlay was the lack of open space preservation. So knowing the last discussion, we still came in at 10% open space. Can you kind of talk through that?
Well, we kept the impervious surface to basically the bare minimum that we would need to for this development. So that's always a balancing act when we're talking about parking, for example, which was a question earlier, was, okay, well, if we put in more parking, then we're taking away more greenery on the site. So when we came through with the design, what we wanted to do was balance functionality with green space, stormwater management, et cetera. So we first of all have the parking spaces required in the ordinance. We have the open space on this site in the ordinance that's required, but on top of that, Ms. Diamond discussed at the Planning Commission meeting that I think about 200 yards from this property, internal to the Woods campus, are a number of recreational facilities which make this unique as compared to, I think, a lot of the other sites in the township. So we are able to offer amenities to individuals who would eventually reside here, I think, in a way that is slightly different perhaps than someone else who's building a 3.78 acre site in a vacuum, not with contiguous parcels that they have access to. So I think you're right in the sense that the quote-unquote open space is the ordinance requirement and not anything beyond that. We have maximized, I think, how we've designed the green space to keep what we could there, while also, I think, as an explanatory note, still had access to recreational facilities for the site, which are clearly within walking distance that residents who reside here are going to be able to access for themselves or their families.
But there's nothing that says that those recreation facilities have to stay going forward, correct? They could be redeveloped based on the overlay.
Potentially subject to a whole bunch of other requirements. I will note this. Part of the conversation at the supervisors meeting with respect to the overlay was that the only thing that is a by right development is the apartment, this apartment building. So when we talk about redevelopment of any portion of the Woods campus, that is going to be governed by conditional use, which allows the supervisors to put more restrictions on what that looks like. So I don't want to presume what the township's action is going to be, but I would venture a guess perhaps that if we came through seeking to develop that portion of the campus, one of the conditions perhaps from the supervisors would be retention of a recreational facility. And that ordinance empowers the township to put conditions on any development that is not just this particular 3.78 acre parcel.
Other public comments? All right, I'm not seeing any, so there has been a motion and a second, so I will call this for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. Thank you, Mr. Claes. All right, next on the agenda, we have several stormwater management items. The first one is consideration of authorizing advertisement of an ordinance to establish a stormwater advisory committee. Mr. Valla, do you want to talk about this one?
Yes. Getting a little bit of feedback.
Let's give this one a try. Okay, good evening, supervisors. Before you tonight is taking up the, for those who might recall, the ad hoc Stormwater Advisory Committee. I know there was some reference to it earlier this evening. You guys appointed last summer 7 township residents, several of whom served on other boards and commissions of the township, to advise you on the long-term needs to take care of our stormwater management infrastructure and various improvement projects that might be necessary. They did recommend, and you guys did accept their recommendation to implement a stormwater impact fee. One of their other recommendations, which is before you tonight to consider, is creating a permanent or a standing stormwater advisory committee. The township staff is recommending that that committee be composed of a total of 5 residents. Of those 5, the recommendation is that 3 of those also be members of other boards and commissions, specifically either the Planning Commission, Zoning Hearing Board, Environmental Advisory Council, and/or the Financial Advisory Council, just to provide some continuity across the township's planning efforts. And if this is something that the board would like to consider, you guys would be adopting, advertising an ordinance and authorizing the solicitor to begin that process. This would be coming before you for final vote. And staff would also recommend, if you do proceed tonight, that we begin the recruitment efforts. That way you guys could be ready to appoint residents to this committee the same time you are creating or adopting this ordinance.
Yeah, so this sort of falls in line, Mr. Fitch, with what you were talking about. So the idea here is to form a permanent committee that would assist the Board of Supervisors in identifying, prioritizing projects, overseeing the Stormwater Fund, and then ultimately overseeing those projects indefinitely, right? Any questions from any board members for Mr. Valla or maybe Mr. Kessler or anybody else about this item?
I just have concerns about picking those members that are on the other boards. Those members may not necessarily have stormwater experience. So I don't know why we would only have two members at large, where there may be more members in the township that would be willing to volunteer. Would part of the ordinance be that mandate that they came from the other, or would that just be something that we could change if we needed to?
You could do it either way, whatever the board would prefer. You could create a mandate in there that there be specific members that also have membership to another advisory board. You could also do that voluntarily and leave it open-ended if you would prefer. Or you could reduce the number from the recommended 3 down to 2 or 1. I will say that there was continuity on the ad hoc committee across the other committees, and from the staff perspective, it was certainly very helpful to have that continuity across those service areas.
I share Ms. Kane's concern, but from a different direction. I actually worry about how much we ask from our volunteer board members. It's really hard to get people to volunteer for these boards and commissions. And if we have a mandate that we must source from these boards and commissions, I worry that we will struggle to fill the spots with the best people. Sometimes those with time on their hands, raise their hands a lot. And we want to get people who are going to be truly thoughtful about the priorities of the township. So I think as we direct the solicitor to draft this, perhaps we can allow ourselves some flexibility to explicitly allow dual seats, but not mandate it. Would we be okay with that?
We can certainly do that,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, so any other questions then before we move forward?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Kessler, can you explain the purpose, just briefly, of why we're doing this and how, as a township, we have ordinances in place to make sure that we address stormwater drainage when they are developing land?
No, absolutely. So this committee, as Mr. Valla mentioned, came out of the steering committee a few months back. They had met a few times throughout 2024 with the recommendations for how to best fund the stormwater needs for the township, not just currently, but going forward. So with that steering committee, we looked at a list of projects that the township already knows that need to be done, whether it's infrastructure projects, repairs, replacements of deteriorated infrastructure. The few projects that are at the top of the list, and they have been for a while, kind of waiting for adequate funding, are the ones that we're seeing in 2025. The idea being that the committee, the advisory committee, once formed, could then help prioritize projects for the next budget year looking ahead. The funding source would still be primarily the stormwater fee that funds those stormwater projects, and it's specifically for that purpose. So the committee would help steer that, make those recommendations, work with staff, work with our office as the engineer, and the design, the study of these projects would still have to obviously meet the township's requirements. More so, a lot of these larger stormwater projects likely would have permitting with the DEP if they're related to stream banks, drainage system outfalls, things of that nature. Flood mitigation efforts from our MS4 program that we have as a township. There's quite a few projects that are generated kind of from the MS4 side, which doesn't just look at flood mitigation, but also improvements to the stream capacities, how the systems that we have in place from decades before can be updated and just work more efficiently. So there's a lot of moving parts there, but this committee, when thought of by the steering committee, really would be a nice way for the resident side of the township to help steer that and have that input to prioritize those projects.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, so then, who has a question?
Can we comment on what was said, or should we wait till the end?
Sure, you want to take public comment now? I can. Come on up.
It doesn't matter to me, whatever you guys prefer. So you made a comment about other people from the board, variances, and stuff like that. I don't think that's really a good option, because the people that are on the board for the variances, I don't even think they go out and inspect what they're giving the variances for. And the reason I'm saying this is because a neighbor of mine was granted a variance to enclose a deck that was on his property for 30 years, right? So he enclosed the upper part of the deck for living space, and the bottom part was supposed to be for storage. The posts were never inset into the ground. They're just sitting on top of concrete. The house, when he bought it, was supposed to have foundation damage from prior floods. Since he was given his variance, I was told that he's got so many years before they go out and inspect it. So since he's done that, he has built other stuff on the property that's not supposed to be there. He converted his storage space into an apartment and had somebody living there. And I'm assuming he's got something tied into the sewer system. I know Eric's been addressed by logs that he had trees cut down and he decided to keep, and they're now on the township property. And I know one of the other neighbors is concerned that if we get any flooding, those trees are going to go into the water retention basin and so forth. So, as they were saying, I think the volunteers are volunteered out. They have the time to even go and look at this stuff on prior to what they're approving.
If I may.
I happen to know for a fact that we have pretty conscientious members and that they do, in fact, go out.
I'm not saying. I've never seen anything. And apparently, and again, I don't know, he applied for a second variance, and none of the neighbors were ever informed of it. We were informed of the first one, which we came to, and then the second one, we didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand your concern, and I think we're in agreement that the ordinance that ultimately we're going to ask our solicitor to adopt is not going to make it mandated that members of other boards and commissions serve on
I got you, but I'm just saying I don't think that suggestion's a good suggestion.
And if there is a concern about compliance with the zoning variance that might have been issued, please let us know, and we'll have our zoning officer look into it.
All right, so any other public comment on this agenda item while we're doing it? All right, so we need a motion. I think the motion as drafted would just direct the township solicitor to draft the ordinance, so we don't have to necessarily specify in the motion what that ordinance would look like. We have the opportunity to, craft that. Okay.
And it's to draft and advertise.
Of course. Okay, is there a motion?
I move to authorize the township solicitor to draft and advertise an ordinance establishing a stormwater advisory committee.
Thank you, Ms. Hanna. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions at this time? Any additional public questions or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Valla. Thank you, Mr. Esposito. All right, next, under the stormwater management section of the meeting, we have consideration of awarding the Langhorne Gables Drainage Project base bid and alternate number 2 to Foresight Concepts in the amount of $1,610,355.88. Mr. Kessler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. Before you tonight is the recommendation for awarding the Langhorne Gables Phase 2 project. This is mostly along Longview Avenue between Willow and Jefferson. It also includes a portion of Adams at the dead end, if you're familiar with where Adams, that ends away from Trenton Road there. Alternate number 1 was also included. That's for updating and improving some of the existing drainage infrastructure between Clay and Fur Avenue. As well, an alternate number 2 was included. It includes an additional stretch of Adams Avenue with a segment of Harrison Avenue between Adams and Jefferson that has some existing infrastructure, but it's quite a long piece of work there that with the pricing that came in, it was thought we would get the pricing for alternate bid number 2, but more likely it was a project that would be a follow-up project at a later date. The base bid, as I mentioned, Longview between Willow and Jefferson currently does not have stormwater infrastructure. There's been a history, a long time in that neighborhood of flooding issues, and this is looking to really establish an actual stormwater system in the neighborhood there, inlets, pipes, improved culverts where the creek goes through the neighborhood there. The alternate number 1, we would also recommend that be part of the award. That system between Clay and Fir currently has deteriorated with the piping in the back of some of the neighborhoods in Fir that connects to the township system. It also pushes everything to Clay Avenue, and this would look to improve that by separating that system for the Clay Avenue portion to be better managed and updated, as well as that stretch on the back of the properties on Fir to actually go to the system on Fir Avenue. The system is pretty stressed during large storms, and that's looking to improve where that water is going to better manage how quickly it could subside to during larger storm events. So we did receive a number of bids. We had a total of 5 bids that were received, Foresight Concepts being the lowest bidder that came in. The process that we go through for the bid reviews, we mentioned this pretty much any capital project, but the bidders have to meet a number of requirements. I did bring along just how many that is. They have 12 different items that a contractor has to meet, one of which is the responsible contractor ordinance. Within that ordinance, the RCO, there's a list of 10 requirements that they have to achieve and satisfy to be a qualified bidder. So the lowest bidder here met those requirements. We check that for the 3 lowest bidders typically, unless we need to go beyond that. They provided all the documentation for work that they've done for satisfying the township requirements for different forms, non-discrimination forms, big bid security, background questionnaire, as well as acknowledging and satisfying all the bid sections. The RCO has, as you're all aware, requirements for the responsibility of the contractor themselves, their history, work that they've done in the past. It has apprenticeship requirements to ensure that the laborers meet the RCO standards that we have for the township to ensure good projects and good work. The low bid, they did provide initially more of a general apprenticeship qualification. We did follow up as we would anytime we receive that to get specifically the trades that are associated with this project and satisfying documents that show that they meet all the RCO requirements. They satisfied those. Their combined cost for the base bid and alternate number 1 is the $1,610,355.88. It's worth mentioning that this project does have a ARPA H2OPA grant award that the township had received a bit previously to the amount of $744,000. So that will directly go to funding the construction costs of this project. As just mentioned, the last agenda item, the balance would be funded through the stormwater funds that the township now has for looking at these capital projects. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions for Mr. Kessler?
I have a quick question. What would you say the fix is that's going in? Is this going to be a kind of a stopgap? Is this going to be a significant improvement, knowing that there's not really that much infrastructure there today?
We do believe it'll be a significant improvement to what's out there or not out there currently. The culverts that are allowing the stream to pass under those crossroads are not to the size that actually allow enough water through. Will it have it clear from any rain that happens. You can never guarantee that with drainage projects. And there's only so much space to put pipes down in the ground, especially in a flat area like Langhorne Gables neighborhood. But the fact that right now there's known areas, and those are the ones that we look at with the design, to have locations where the water currently is not captured or put into any system, which basically means that it has to find its own way, and typically that's through properties and things of that nature. So this will really provide that water an opportunity to actually get off the road, get off the properties, and get into the creek system to eventually go down to the Neshaminy Creek is where it ends at the end of the day.
Other questions for Mr. Kessler?
Yeah, I just wanted to underscore something regarding the funding of this project. You said we have 700-ish thousand from a grant, and I just want to clarify, the rest of this funding is coming from the stormwater impact fee. And is this the first project that we've been able to fund via the stormwater impact fee?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
And so I can't count the number of houses on this little thing, so I forgot my glasses. But it looks like there's dozens to a couple hundred homes that are going to see what Ms. Kane's answer said was a significant improvement to their situation in their basements, on their streets, the navigability of the neighborhoods. Is that correct?
We believe so, yes, and kind of what we were alluding to before, the projects that have been identified as priority projects, especially this first year, are ones that we've known are areas that need some sort of improvements to the stormwater. So this has been one that, if you recall, had been bid twice before in recent years, and when it gets to the point of, hey, how do we match the grant to balance out what's remaining to get the project done, or how do we weigh that against other things the capital budget might need to prioritize, there just wasn't that funding source for stormwater infrastructure, which we're now able to look at providing that for projects like this.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have an intern this summer, but if we do, I think someone should go through and count up the comments that we get in public comment about flooding situations and give me the percentage of flooding-related comments that we get every single meeting. Because I'm just so excited about the ability to finally address some of that commentary. How often do you think we'll be able to do projects of this magnitude with the new funding source that we have?
Well, to the steering committee's credit, that was last year, they took a look at what the average annual goal was for the township to keep moving everything forward, to get everything moving and also having it move forward for the future for stormwater infrastructure. And it's not just projects, it would also look at funding maintenance and upkeep and things to make sure what we're spending money on is going to be kept up and working for the long term. So the funding goal with the stormwater fee that was established looks to fund about $1.3 million a year. You have projects like this, you have other ones that are significant, and you can see, they have large price tags to them as well. So as we go forward, hopefully not all of them are huge, $1 million projects.
Hopefully they get smaller,
but,
like
yeah,
we do the big
exactly
ones
right.
first, right?
Yeah, and that's where that advisory committee can help kind of prioritize, hey, here's the next 2 or 3 that make the most sense. But another thing that we do, and something that we did for this project a few times, was have meetings with the neighborhood, meeting with the residents. When it comes to stormwater, it's one of those things that obviously the folks in the neighborhood are living with on a day-to-day basis. They know, hey, this is the exact spot on the road that really has taken the most water. So we want to have as much interaction with the residents. So when it goes to construction, we'll continue to have the residents involved with what the contractor is going to be doing. And that way, when we're doing projects like this, we can really address those local issues.
I think that's great. I was on this board for 6 years before and a few months now, and the number of times we've gotten to vote on a $1.6 million project are very, very few. So I just can't emphasize the magnitude of the impact this is going to have for real people. I mean, this is why we do this. So thank you, everybody, because I know this was a multi-departmental effort to pull together the financing, the planning, and listen to the residents and all the work that you've done to pull this off. So I'm excited to see it break ground.
Yeah. And I think I wanted to also thank the original board that we had, the committee that identified these issues. I mean, obviously we know Langhorne Gables has been an issue for years and years, and we've been basically kicking it down the road because we never had the budget to do this project. So when people ask why we have the stormwater fee, this is the reason we have it. So we're really making improvements in our community.
Yeah, and worth noting that grant is a significant amount that we received, and that'll still be the practice going forward with staff in our office to look at grant opportunities. So not completely relying on that stormwater funding, but also to offset it so we can do hopefully more projects in an annual cycle than just relying on the stormwater fee itself.
Able to accept the grants.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's right. And this grant is good until the end of September 2026, which was part of the reason it's right at the top, besides the need of it, to take advantage of that grant funding and have more money for other things once this project is complete.
How long do you estimate that this project would take to complete?
In the contract, I believe we have 120 days for the work. Obviously, once we meet with an awarded contractor, we'll have a pre-construction meeting and get a full schedule. But for the base bid and that alternate number one, we would expect about that length of time of them working in the neighborhood there.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public on this item? Yes, sir.
Richard Doyle, 67 Queensbridge. The fee, I'm concerned about it. The 1.5 million number came from engineering, or?
That number came from the ongoing list the township has for stormwater projects. So that's capital projects, it's maintenance for stormwater, it's MS4 projects for water quality and flood mitigation. We stretch it out. The part of the township's MS4 program is to have a 5-year list of projects that, you know, if all the funding in the world was there, we'd do it right away. You take those 5 years, you divide them up annually, and that's the average annual amount we were looking to fund going forward.
Okay. Is there a study that you could share with us or share to the public? 'Cause I asked you, Mr. Vala, and you said there was nothing done, no engineering done.
I mean, we have the project list we had with the steering committee,
Yeah.
and obviously that's part of our MS4 report to the DP as well. We have it to follow up, and you know, if you have any questions on that, we can, I'm sure, share some of that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send a couple more emails too and get some clarification on that. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other public comment? Yes, sir.
So I'm going to throw things back on Eric again. I know Eric is a little busy with all the other projects he's got going on. As I drive around the township, and because of the situation I've been in, my house being flooded, you tend to look at more things than most people would. You got a ton of storm drains in the neighborhoods, on the main roads that are not maintained at all. I have a suggestion that why don't we go to some of the neighbors that have these storm drains in front of their houses, on their properties, and say to them, hey, we're going to waive your $60 fee if you maintain this drain for us. It solves two problems. You get a lot of people that are complaining about paying the $60, so if they have a storm drain in front of their house, they get that waived, but then on the other side of the coin, you're kind of getting free labor and making people aware to keep the drains open and cleaned.
I mean, I have a number of concerns about that. I mean, liability of having, you know, unskilled residents cleaning out storm inlets is...
Well, I mean, how hard is it to rake the leaves off the drain? That's the problem, is that the leaves and the tree branches are on the drain, so the water can't even get into the drain. That's basically what it is. It's not taking off the grate and climbing in them. It's just keeping the grass clippings or the tree branches or the garbage that floats down the street off of them. I mean, there's tons of ways that we can do things to help alleviate, again, some of the stuff being on the residents. I don't know how many, I mentioned this when we were in our meetings to come up with this stuff, that how many retention basins that are business owned that are not maintained. McDonald's on Route 1 across from Team Toyota. You look at that, and that has not been maintained since the day it was put in. You got so many days to do it, or we're fining you. The fine money goes to the stormwater stuff. You know what I mean? Again, there's so many things that we could do to do that. But, you know, again, you know, you're looking at, for whatever you want to call it, free labor or labor to clean off the top of the grate for no $50 fee or $60 a year fee.
I mean, so there's a couple things. Number one, a commercial property, it's not $60. Their stormwater fee
I
is
understand that, and
different.
again, I was part of the
I
team.
know you were, yeah.
So,
And the other concern is, I mean, now you're talking about what happens when they don't clean it out, and now we have to monitor and enforce that, and that creates a whole nother level of.
well, again, it's a drive-by compared to where you got to have maybe two guys in the truck or whatever, and then they got to get out of the truck, get the rakes or whatnot.
Well, I appreciate the ideas. I appreciate the creativity. I mean, that's part of the reason why we want to have a standing committee to continue.
So with
to
the
explore.
committee, if somebody was on the board, do they have the option to get back on it again, or do they have to go through and who knows, these guys might say, the heck with him, we don't want him because he talks too much and he's on the flood side instead of the whatever.
I mean,
know?
you certainly aren't precluded from being on the board again. I mean, I don't think anybody's automatically grandfathered onto the new committee. I think we're starting from scratch is the idea, but certainly if you're interested and want to apply, I mean, absolutely we'll consider you.
Okay. And the other thing is, and again, this is probably off topic, we've talked about, or they talked about, doing work on the green belts to widen. I mean, I think there's so many other areas near residential homes that need to be taken care of before worrying about a little bit of water on the green belts, but thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? All right. I think we need a motion. Is there a motion regarding the Langhorne Gables drainage project?
I make a motion to award the base bid and alternate bid number 1 for the Langhorne Gables Drainage Improvements Project Phase 2 in the total amount of $1,610,355.88 to Foresight Concepts.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think Ms. Hanna got it first. Been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Next on the agenda, consideration of authorizing purchase of the design culvert for Reitz Avenue Improvement Project and authorizing advertisement for culvert installation. Mr. Kessler again.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. This item underneath the stormwater management section is looking at the other major project in 2025 that we're looking to fund as far as stormwater is concerned. If you're familiar with Reitz Avenue coming into Middletown Township, it does dead end on the screen here to the upper right. There's, I believe, 5 homes at the dead end side. And then as you go towards the township boundary to the left, goes into the neighborhood the other way. The culvert that's currently out there has deteriorated significantly, especially over the past few years, shown signs of cracking, of deterioration. It's not an immediate hazard where we can't have traffic over it at the moment, but if the idea being if we kind of delay this project too long, it might reach that situation. The culvert itself is looking to be replaced entirely. It would also involve replacing some of the roadway there that's shaded into either side that would be resurfaced at the end. We're working together with the property owners along this stretch, and we've discussed with staff and the properties there. This would be done in a phased construction to allow the roadway, at least one lane, to be maintained open the entire construction. So the folks at the end would not be cut off for any amount of time. Emergency services obviously would have access back there throughout the construction. The culvert itself is something that we coordinated and had a collaborative effort with Context Solutions. Their products are really exactly to this type of application, these culvert replacements and improvements. One thing to note, this one currently is a circle pipe that goes through there. It's undersized for the amount of water that gets through there. The updated new culvert would be more of an open bottom arch style to it, better environmentally. DEP is always happy when you have that. It allows the creek and anything environmentally to kind of go through there with a natural bottom compared to having to be in a circular pipe. The capacity will be improved as well to allow more of those floodwaters to get through during those types of situations. So I mentioned the culvert by Context Solutions. Working with staff, the recommendation that we have is for the township to purchase the culvert. That will allow the township to have that with the lead time that goes along with that to be ready once this project would be bid out and have a contractor lined up to actually install it and do the rest of the work. So that price also having it being purchased ahead of time should save money for the township as far as if a contractor worked with Contech to get the culvert, they would have some sort of marked up price in their bid that would then be part of a recommendation if it was incorporated in that contract. So at the end of the day, we do feel that that would be a more cost-effective way to go, as well as the lead time to allow the construction to happen sooner than waiting until after it was awarded. The culvert purchase agreement is in the packet here. That's one of the requested items to authorize that. The culvert set a cost of $165,000. The total project, including the culvert, is estimated at $420,000, give or take. Again, this would be one that would be funded through the stormwater fee that's now established, and we'd look to have it eventually bid out. So we ask for authorization to advertise that once everything is ready, and then come back before the board with final pricing we'd receive for any kind of recommendation to award the contract.
Questions for Mr. Kessler? Any questions from the public on this one? I can accept a motion.
I make a motion to authorize, can I do these together, Jim? Do we have to vote separately on these two, or we can include them?
For the purchase agreement and the
Purchase
authorization
and the-
to
Purchase and a
advertise.
signature?
You can do them together unless you feel that they both won't be into the
You
same.
can roll them up and see how it goes?
There was no public comment or supervisor comment, so I
I
think
make a motion to authorize the advertisement to solicit bids for the township's Reeds Avenue Culvert Replacement Project and to authorize the signature of the proposal for professional services with purchase commitment prepared by Contech Engineered Solutions LLC.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, we're keeping you busy tonight, Mr. Kessler. Consideration of authorizing advertisement for 2025 ADA curb ramp program.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this might be the last one for me this evening, but switching from water to curb ramps, this is the annual program that the township has to improve curb ramps around the township, make them in compliance with current ADA standards compared to some of the ones that were built decades ago in some of the neighborhoods. This year's program looks to address the curb corners in the Juniper Hill neighborhood. It utilizes CDBG grant funding again, the Community Development Block Grant that we've had in previous years, and compliments to the staff for just getting this year after year. It's looking to have 19 new curb ramps be reconstructed there. It also has one as an alternate bid, and we'll see the pricing that comes in. That would be to construct an ADA ramp at the corner of Jasmine and Jolly Brook, which is where the pedestrian bridge then goes over Mill Creek. Currently, there's not really accessible access there. So if the pricing is favorable, we look to have that as part of the work being done in the neighborhood. But regardless, the grant is looking to fund the construction for this one, and this is before you this evening to authorize advertisement for the project once it's ready with the bid package.
Questions for Mr. Kessler?
My only question is, I know I've asked this before, but is there anything that we can do to reduce the price per ramp? I think we're almost paying almost $9,000 per ramp. It's just a slow process. I think I've been on this board 3 years, and it's just a couple intersections. I would really like to get all of these ADA ramps up and running as fast and soon as possible.
That's a great point, and I don't disagree with you. It'd be great to make more of a leap each year. The price of the concrete and the work for each corner, we don't have too much control over, so that's kind of been the average of each corner, over the past, X amount of years. The ramp cost, it does include the approach, that you see on each side, the curbing, the little asphalt restoration that goes along with it. So it's not just the corner, but I agree, it's an expensive endeavor each season. So we continue to look for other funding sources that can help hopefully do more than 19 to 20 each year. And I'll just add real quick, the strategy or the approach that we do to identify where to have the program happen each year is a bit of a combination of things. One is to have the curb ramps completed prior to when the neighborhood can be repaved, because that is one of the requirements for using liquid fuels funding. If you're touching the corners, you have to make sure they're compliant ramps. And so the reason for this year with the Juniper Hill, we're hoping that that's a neighborhood that we could pave, and with the funding that we had this year, we're able to hopefully do the entire neighborhood in 1 year, so that's ready for future paving.
Other questions? All right, I can accept a motion.
Make a motion to authorize the advertisement to solicit bids for the township's 2025 CDBG ADA curb ramp project.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Yes, sir.
So you're saying $9,000 for one block of concrete?
$9,000. It's an average of $9,000 for each ramp corner altogether.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying. One corner, $9,000?
It's not a block, but yeah, it's the sidewalk that approaches it from each end. It's the corner. It's the warning
Can't we go to
surface
the-
and the yards.
Technical high school and give them a donation for half of that price and get the tech school kids to do that? I mean, you get senior tech school kids that can smooth out concrete. I mean, holy cow. That's a ton of money. Ton of money.
I love when you come to our meetings, Mr. Fitch. You got to come.
Holy cow. I mean, you can get your driveway paved for less than that. You get some little kids with Tonka trucks to go out there and chip away to, wow, $9,000.
Other public comment? All right, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, consideration of entering into an intergovernmental agreement with the Neshaminy School District to implement an automated school bus stop signal arm enforcement program. Chief Barbarella.
Good evening once again, Mr. Kizak, members of the board. Tonight, I respectfully ask for your consideration and approval to enter into an agreement between the Township Police Department, the Neshaminy School District, and Bus Patrol to implement an automated school bus stop arm violation enforcement program. We all know how dangerous it is when a driver passes a stopped school bus while its red lights are flashing and the stop arm is deployed. This isn't just illegal, it puts the lives of children at serious risk. Unfortunately, despite ongoing public awareness efforts, these violations continue to happen far frequently, and I was pretty amazed when I talked to my colleagues in neighboring police departments how frequently it happens. I wasn't prepared for how many violations actually occur. So the challenge we face as a police department is that no police department, including ours, has the resources to follow hundreds of school buses around every morning and afternoon to catch violators in real time. It's simply not possible. This is where technology becomes an important ally in public safety. Through this proposed partnership with Bus Patrol, cameras will be installed on school buses to automatically detect and record vehicles that illegally pass when children are boarding or exiting. That video footage is then securely transmitted to our police department, where our traffic officer will review the incident to determine if a violation occurred. If confirmed, a civil citation is issued. These are civil violations only. I definitely want to stress that. No points will be assessed to a driver's license. The fine is set uniformly at the state level at $300. It's distributed as follows. $150 goes to Bus Patrol. That's to fund equipment, installation, and maintenance. $100 goes to the Neshaminy School District. $25 goes to PennDOT, and $25 comes back to the police department to help offset the officer's time spent reviewing footage. This program is already successfully operating in neighboring communities, including the Ben Salem, Pennsbury, and Central Bucks school districts. It has proven to be an effective deterrent and a relatively cost-neutral solution for municipalities, improving student safety without placing additional significant financial burden on the township. For us, this is an opportunity to join a proven safety initiative that provides immediate benefit to our residents, our children, and our schools. The Neshaminy School Board has already approved this agreement. They're awaiting our board's consideration and decision. So if the board concurs, I would respectfully request a motion to authorize the police department to enter into this agreement with the Neshaminy School District and Bus Patrol Incorporated. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions. Before you have any questions, I'll just mention I did speak to Chief Nelson Whitney in Falls Township. They have the program there. It's running, very smoothly there. They're having a lot of success with it. My good friend Dan Friel, Chief of Warrington PD, part of the Central Bucks School District, they're having good success with it. Ben Salem was, I believe, the first municipality in our county to use Bus Patrol. There were a few hiccups at first. They've been using it several years. They've since ironed it out, and they're doing very well. Ben Salem gets about 5,000 violations a year. Warrington gets about 400 a month, and Falls is in the 200 to 300 range. So there are a lot more violations than I actually thought occurred. The violations are reviewed by an officer, just to make sure that they are violations. It's not just a still photo like you see with a traffic light camera. It's the actual full video that you can see. And so that's just some information from some of our neighboring municipalities. If you had any questions, any further questions. Yes, Miss Anna.
Is the video downloaded to a drive somewhere? How do you?
I believe it's all cloud-based, and it's just transmitted to us through a secure network connection. I don't know exactly how, but there's a portal that's set up between Bus Patrol and the police department, and then the violations are transmitted to us periodically. I don't know exactly what the frequency is.
Can you explain the differential between the dollar amount that Neshaminy School District is getting versus us? I would assume that would have been split 50-50.
So the only thing I know, Ms. Kane, about how the funds are distributed is that we're no different than any other municipality that has entered into an agreement with Bus Patrol. I believe they're in maybe 60 school districts throughout the Commonwealth, and every agreement is identical to this. I know that for a fact Falls Township, Warrington, and Ben Salem have the exact breakdown that we would be getting. I don't know how that's broken down or why it's broken down that way, but that's
Yeah, I'm just thinking things like school zone
Right.
display and the stops, crossing guards, all of the fees, school resource officers, all the fees that we kind of assess these fees would help with. So I didn't know how Neshaminy School District, if there were any, where those dollars could be spent.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that they're going to be outfitting hundreds of buses, so there's a cost there, and then the school district has to maintain the buses. So there's definitely costs for everyone involved. I don't know what PennDOT does have a cost because they'll do a first level hearing if there's ever an appeal to a fine. So I can't answer. I know it's pretty uniform how it's broken down, and it's the same for every municipality. I don't know if Mr. Valla wants to address it, further.
Yeah, the chief is correct that this is a pretty standard setup. The one thing that I will add is that we did have a conversation with the school district, and it is typical, especially in a school district like ours that has multiple municipalities in it. They're actually pursuing this agreement with each municipality, since it is the police department's job to enforce those violations. But it is typical for, especially in our case, for the school district to be kind of the lead party with this.
Have you all done the math on, because it sounds like you did the research on how many violations will be coming in. Have you done the math on whether this fee will cover our officers' time to review all of this footage, or is this going to put a dent in the other enforcement that we are required to do?
It's going to take time.
Yeah.
I mean, in talking to Ben Salem, in fact, they're one of their officers who actually does the enforcement. I talked to him directly. They get, over 5,000 a year. I have their numbers. Their deputy director actually sent me their numbers. Something like 5,500 one year, and it does take them sometimes a couple of hours, 3 or 4 days a week to review the footage because it's substantial. You're looking through quite a number of videos. It has to be done. I mean, it's a serious problem. It needs to get addressed. So it does take time. Does the $25 pay for that? Probably not in full. I'm just looking at it as like a cost benefit. We're getting something, but the benefit is I think it's a good deterrent Hopefully, what those municipalities are seeing is like a slight reduction every year, and I think once the messaging gets out there, it will serve as a deterrent. Maybe there won't be as many violations to review, after, the initial rollout of the program and, violations start getting sent to people that are violating it.
Yeah, and I know it's getting late. It seems like Middletown is bearing all of the work for this and not the reward. I'm not looking to make money. I'm with you. There's my kids' bus stop. I see it from my office window, and it's horrific the way people blow through there. So it's solving a genuine problem. I think what I'm worried about is we're going to be here next year, and you're going to say, I need another admin officer in order to review all these. I've known you a long time, Chief. I need another admin officer to review all these violations, and that's going to be a direct cost back to us. Is there a way to approve this on a trial basis so that we can review the burden on the township and maybe renegotiate with Neshaminy in the future? I don't want to hold it up, but I really,
Well, there
I'm
is
really worried
a,
about the long-term ramifications of this.
I believe, Ms. Strauss, there's a provision in the contract that says that any of the three entities, us, the school district, or bus patrol, can back out of the contract with 90 days' notice. So we're not locked in. It's a 5-year contract, but I believe that we can opt out with 90 days' notice at any
With
time.
no fee or penalty or anything.
Not from what I read, if Mr. Esposito wants to comment
I
on
do
that. but
concur.
I'm-
It is a
right.
5-year contract, but there is that 90-day termination provision.
So
We
we're
would
we're
have
not-
to consult with obviously the school district, and I've been discussing with the school district solicitor about this as well.
Okay.
And I will add, too, that there has been conversation within the police department administration to work with the school district to update or refresh the, specifically the school resource officer agreements that we have in place with the school district. And this could certainly be a part of, how can we cost share the cost of law enforcement and providing school safety. I think this is a relevant piece to that conversation.
100%.
Yeah, I think the issue with any automated enforcement, it still has to be signed off on by a law enforcement officer. Even something like this that's a civil violation, it still has to be viewed by a sworn officer and signed off on it. Can't just automatically be a violation because it's on video. That's why bus patrol and the school districts need their local police departments, because an officer still has to sign off on the
No,
violation.
I totally get that. I totally
Yeah.
get that. And the alternative is we're letting all these violations go unremarked, which is counter to public safety. The other question I had was regarding appeals. If the technology makes a mistake or misidentifies someone or someone else is driving your car, what's the process for appealing that up?
So the appeal is you get what's called a PennDOT hearing. So I believe it's a virtual hearing with a PennDOT hearing officer. If you appeal that, I'm not sure then if it goes to, common pleas court, but I know that the initial appeal, if the officer signs off, the officer sees the alleged violation, concurs that it is a violation, signs off on it, and the driver or the person cited, the owner of the vehicle, doesn't agree and wants to appeal it, then the appeal is heard by a PennDOT officer. I don't know who in PennDOT actually hears the appeals, but it goes to PennDOT for a first level hearing.
I mean, I think I have a slightly different view. I understand everybody's, has concern about the cost involved, and that's fair. I personally am concerned about being penny wise and pound foolish with a public safety issue where our chief is asking for it, where the school district's already approved it, and where our neighboring municipalities and districts have already entered into similar agreements. The number of violations that they found in our neighboring districts, municipalities, frankly, is shocking and staggering to me. And so I think for us to hold up this because we're concerned about the amount that we are getting in terms of the return, personally, I don't think is justified. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this tonight. So I am prepared to make a motion to approve it, but if other folks aren't, I guess we can table it and reconsider other options. Does anybody have any other questions or comments they want to make before I make a motion?
No, I think I'm okay moving forward. I think I agree with you that I'd rather have the enforcement than the cost. But if I could ask, Chief, if you can can we really track this over the coming months and really understand what that true cost to the township is? So that way we can, bring that to the partnering school districts and have that conversation and have the data to support that.
Yes, and I'll send you the data from the other police departments if you want to. So I'll send it to the whole board if you want to see what the other police departments are experiencing. And I will say thank you, Mr. Kizak, because I know that the school board or the school district does want to outfit the buses as soon as possible, and they kind of plan to do it now, like over the summer break, to have it ready to roll out in September. And I believe there's going to be, like there is with all automated enforcement, like a 30 or 60-day warning period at first before the actual violations kick in. I don't remember the exact number of days for the warning period, but it is set to roll out in September with the new school year. And they're going to spend the summer, I think, outfitting the buses with the cameras.
Yeah, I just don't want to be in a scenario where, we don't do this and some kid gets hit by a car and we're going to be like, well, was it worth saving $25, or we're complaining about $25? So, that's where I am on it. All right, well, then I'm going to make a motion to authorize the police department to enter into an agreement with the Neshaminy School District and Bus Patrol, Inc. for the implementation and enforcement of an automated school bus stop arm violation program. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been a motion and a second. Any additional board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carries 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Kizak.
All right, next on the agenda, we have several township manager agenda items. So first and foremost, as everybody knows, our former longtime township manager, Stephanie Tioli-Cools, retired, and so we were tasked with the job of filling her very big shoes. First and foremost, I want to say that Nick Valla, our assistant manager, has stepped into the role of interim township manager since Ms. Tioli-Cools retired, and he has done really an admirable and capable job. We have not missed a beat. Business has moved forward, and we really have remarkably not felt Ms. Tioli-Cools' absence during the period of time when Mr. Valla has been leading the township. So I want to thank him for his incredible work and effort throughout this process. It's really been remarkable. A little bit about our process. We did conduct what I would call a thorough and very competitive search process. We engaged an outside consultant to assist with recruitment and screening and evaluation and ultimately background research and investigation. Interest in this position was extremely high. We had a lot, really an impressive and qualified field of candidates. All 5 supervisors participated in the interview process, as well as all of our department directors. And I want to thank our department directors in particular. They conducted interviews, and their feedback and insight was really invaluable to us, and I would say played a significant role in our ultimate decision. Having gone through that process, I am pleased tonight to nominate Eden Ratliff to be appointed as our new township supervisor. Eden Ratliff most recently served as the deputy city manager for the city of Charlottesville in Virginia. Prior to that, Mr. Ratliff was the township manager for Kennett Township down in Chester County, where he led a crisis management effort, an investigation following the discovery of $3.2 million in fraud committed by the former township manager. So that's what Mr. Ratliff is walking into, and that's what he navigated that township through. Prior to that, he also served as the manager for 2 other municipalities, Greencastle Borough and Ford City. Mr. Ratliff's got a bachelor's from IUP in political science, a master's from IUP in employment and labor relations, and he's currently pursuing a master's in public management from Johns Hopkins. Mr. Ratliff is also a volunteer firefighter. He's incredibly qualified. We as a board are thrilled to bring him in and are excited to see all the things he is going to do for Middletown Township. So with that, I will make a motion to appoint Eden Ratliff as our new township manager. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. And Mr. Ratliff is actually here tonight. I'd like to invite him to come up if he wouldn't mind to just introduce himself to Middletown Township.
To Mr. Kizak and the Board of Supervisors, thank you very much. My name is Eden Ratliff. I really am honored to be here. I'm so excited to partner with the Board of Supervisors, with the township staff, and the residents of Middletown Township. This is a great honor. It's an incredible community. There's lots of amazing things happening here. I had the chance to spend half a day here today, a lot of times with the township staff and then, of course, the meeting tonight. And I'm so energized to get started. As you noted, I'm a Pennsylvania native. I grew up just down the road. My family's super excited for my return to Pennsylvania after being in Virginia. And I couldn't be landing in a better spot. Amazing things happening here, super well governed, long history of professional management. Stephanie's actually a friend of mine. And I'm humbled to be stepping into her shoes, but also a little intimidated because of her long success as a manager, and just super excited for what the future holds. So thank you so much. I'm honored. To the township staff, you guys are doing incredible things here. They know that. I think many people have told you that. High level of service that's being provided here, and I'm super excited to join that team and to be a part of it. To Nick, being an interim manager is really hard. You're doing a great job. It's not easy kind of keeping it together, but you're certainly making it look easy. So great job, and thank you for that. I'm looking forward to getting started. Thank you very much, and we'll see everyone very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Ratliff. Welcome aboard. More township manager business. Next item under this topic is consideration of increasing the bond limits to the amount of $4 million for township manager/treasurer and assistant treasurer for the faithful performance of the duties of said offices. Mr. Valla, you want to explain this one?
Sure, and I'll actually take both B and C, if I may, Mr. Chair. Both of these are truly housekeeping items. The bond limits, this is something that the board enacts every single year at reorg. We have since received a recommendation from our auditor that the proper amount, currently it's $1.5 million. The proper amount is actually $4 million. This is simply just an insurance policy to protect the township related to professional duties for both the manager and the finance director, or the treasurer and assistant treasurer, the other titles that they currently hold. And then item C, the resolution, is simply just appointing Mr. Ratliff, the new township manager, as a signatory to our bank accounts once he starts.
And just for the record, that would be resolution 25-14R, correct?
Correct.
All right. Is there a motion on both of those items?
I move to increase bond limits to the amount of $4 million each for the township manager treasurer and the assistant treasurer for the faithful performance of the duties of said offices.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Questions from the public? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. And then just quickly, I'll move to adopt resolution number 25-14R, appointing bank signatories. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Strauss. Been a motion and a second. Questions from the board? Questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Valla. All right, that concludes our formal agenda items and takes us into other business. I will start with Mr. Valla.
Sure, thank you. I just want to congratulate Mr. Ratliff. I have had the pleasure of knowing him for several years. He's a dear colleague and a friend, and I look forward to him now being a coworker.
Thank you. Mr. Kessler.
Not to have you stay too much longer, but we do have some previously approved plans for signature before you leave tonight. But
We got to start signing these at the beginning of the meeting.
I agree. I wouldn't change that. That's all there. Thank you.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes, I just wanted to announce that the board did hold an executive session prior to tonight's meeting, as well as on May 14th, to discuss personnel, labor, and litigation matters.
Ms. Corporal.
I just wanted to welcome Mr. Ratliff to the township, and we're excited to have you. And thank you, Nick, for all your hard work and just pulling us through. Thank you.
Ms. Strauss.
Yeah, mainly wanted to thank you, Nick. This has been, as Mike said, just an absolutely seamless transition, and just can't thank you enough for being here and supporting the work of the township for the last couple of months, and I know you will continue to do so for another few weeks, so thank you so much. The other thing I wanted to address was the topic of community. Mr. Fitch raised the idea of clearing storm drains and providing a fee for that, and it just occurred to me that that's just more of a neighborly thing to do. And we always post something, I think, on our social media in the winter about clearing the snow around your fire hydrants and clearing the leaves off your storm drain. These are things that neighbors do. These are things that communities do. So anybody that does happen to be watching, clear off your storm drain. Clear out your fire hydrant. That's the right thing to do. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss. Ms. Kane.
I will reiterate, thank you, Mr. Valla, for all that you've done with us for the transition, and welcome to our new manager, Mr. Ratliff.
Ms. Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. It's been seamless. Appreciate it. And welcome, Mr. Ratliff.
All right, I have nothing further, so I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Excuse me, can I just say one more thing?
So much no.
I was outside. We use our cameras constantly. My question is, are the cameras going to be on all four corners and the interior of the bus? Because I would suggest if you're going to spend the money for just like one camera, spend maybe a little bit more and get more of the angles. God forbid there is a situation where you need it. Like I said, we got the sides, the front, the back, the bus drivers, everything.
So we're not spending the money.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah, so that's a better question for the school district. We're just entering into an agreement where we'll be enforcing the violations, but I mean, it's a good point. I mean, more cameras the better, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, we use them every day for looking at the damages on the cars that I write the estimates on, and liability, and supposed people that were on the bus when the crash happened, and all of that stuff. So that was my
Appreciate it.
comment. Thank you so much.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Go home.
No, come on up.
Sorry, I'm having my hearing aid fixed, so I've missed a lot of what, and I missed my opportunity to speak. May I?
Come on up.
My name is Karen Dalrymple, and I live in Valley View Estates. And I'm backtracking to the Wood School, well, I'm going to call the Wood School project, but the apartments that are going up. Every time we have an issue, this is even going back to the project that's going over across from Giant now. They always say they're going to do traffic studies, but it seems like the traffic studies come back that it's okay, which I don't understand. I just want to point out, like I said, I live in Valley View. When I come out my driveway or our street, oh, let me back up and ask one other question. Those two new buildings on 213 by Reedman's, where the warehouses are going up, am I assuming correctly they're going to be red lights, traffic lights?
You're talking about the warehouses on, I don't, without having that plan in front of me, I can't really speak to the details of it.
There is a traffic signal going up where the bridge over 213 used to be before the projects were there.
Correct.
There's a new traffic signal going there, correct?
Okay. So going out to of our street, so there's a traffic signal at Winchester, Giant, 213, making the left, Wood School, South Flower Mill Road, the post office, there's two new ones at Reedman's, Woodburn Road, and Route 1. So between my house and Route 1, there are 10 red lights, traffic signals. Sometimes we can't even get, after we make the right to try and get down North Flower Mill Road, you can't even get to Giant. The traffic's backed up that far. And that's a long light. So you're lucky if you only wait 2 lights. I mean, it just seems, you know, and coming the other way, I know I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but it's backed up, like Linda said, at 3:30, 4 o'clock. You can't get through. But how can these traffic studies keep saying there's no impact? I don't understand.
Mr. Kessler, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they put money towards making improvements to that specifically?
Yeah, I was actually just going to bring that up. Thank you, Supervisor Corporal. There is, and it will probably be coming before this board later this summer, there is a project to improve the effectiveness or the efficiency of the signals pretty much from where you live in Valley View all the way up to Wheeler Way, the post office, as you phrased it, traffic signal. All 6 of those intersections, there is a project the township is going to endeavor upon to improve the functionality of those signals to help flow traffic better, because yes, we agree it is an issue that's been going on.
There always seems to be an answer. Oh, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But it never really seems to help the problem. And all we do is keep building and building. And when we came about the project across from Giant, the environmental study said no, zoning said no, and they just keep coming back, and then eventually you approved it. I guess I don't understand. Is it the more you keep coming back, then you just get it approved?
I'm not sure I understand your question. I don't know what project you're talking about.
The Wood School project that's going across from Giant.
The apartments that we approved tonight you're talking about?
I believe she's speaking about the parcel across from the Flowers Mill Shopping Center.
Oh,
catty corner.
they withdrew that plan.
I'm sorry?
They withdrew that plan.
There's nothing.
No, I know it's not the same project. But what I'm saying is when we came for that, the environmental study said it shouldn't go in. Zoning board declined.
It's not going in.
I think she's talking about Stone Meadow.
That project is not going forward.
I think it was Stone Meadow that you're talking about, correct?
I'm sorry.
There was supposed to be a project which was coming towards
Across from Flowers
It was
Mill.
across from Flowers Mill. It was supposed to be a multi-use.
Yeah. No, because she lives down. Yeah, yeah. So the project you're referring to is not going forward.
It's not.
It is not.
Okay. Because that was just going to add more traffic. It just seems like the more these lawyers keep coming up and they promise you the world, and then it doesn't happen. But anyway, I don't know. I've lived here for 57 years. I'm now 78 years old. My mother's 101. I hope I don't be that old, because this will no longer be Middletown Township. It's going to be the city of Middletown. That's what we're becoming. It just seems that any project that comes through is approved. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, we had a motion to adjourn, so I am going to adjourn the meeting. We're adjourned.